So yesterday we had an official government document on a no deal Brexit scenario, which was written a while ago by the previous government under Theresa May's leadership, leaked to the papers. So we had the Sunday Times and the papers on Saturday night tweeting saying we have this document and we're going to be releasing it the next day in our papers. So obviously by that time no one had actually read it. But having said that, we had Lord Adonis and Jeremy Corbyn instantly coming out and say, see, told you, this is going to be chaos. No deal Brexit is bad and Brexit is bad in general, and we know because we have the evidence. Well, they didn't at the time because no one had actually read it, but okay. But then Sunday came and this dossier showed a few points and essentially scaremongering about the worst case scenario of Brexit. Firstly, this is out of date. This was written a while ago and kind of basically after the Brexit vote. Secondly, this is the worst case scenario in a situation where the government doesn't fully prepare for a no deal situation, which was, to be fair, quite honest, because the Theresa May government decided not to fully prepare for a no deal scenario because they didn't want a no deal Brexit. But under the Boris administration, we have accelerated the preparation for a no deal scenario. Most of it has been done already and they're basically just finalizing everything right now for the next couple of months, but it is the job of government. So government issuing a document saying, oh, well, this is bad because we need to be prepared for it, otherwise it wouldn't work. Well, it is your job, not my job, not the ordinary people's job. It's the job of the government. But for example, the details of this end of the world document are quite iffy as well. They say imports and things that come into the country, the UK, will basically stop from the EU. Well, no, it won't, because we already trade under the WTO terms with America, Africa and Asia, and things still come in. Yes, there will be some disruption if the government isn't prepared for that scenario, but again, it is the job of the government, and they have the flexibility to essentially at least bring down the barriers temporarily to avoid any disruption. The same applies to the Irish border. The document says that there's going to be a hard border between the UK and Ireland. Well, firstly, Ireland has said that they don't want a hard border. The UK has said that they don't want a hard border. So who's going to be building this hard border? The weirder scenario is going to be a situation where obviously the UK won't put up barriers and Ireland don't want to put up barriers. So it's going to be the EU bullying and forcing the Republic to do something about this, and that's their problem. They can fight together, I don't care. But again, this sort of dossier reminds me of what George Osborne produced during the EU referendum campaign that said that every household is going to be losing thousands of pounds after the Brexit vote. This was a typical Treasury type of document which essentially only considered the worst case scenario without any action. This is not how we do economics. This is not how we do budget management. I have no idea who these people are and why they think they can just scare people like this. But on this point, I was listening to Julia Hartley-Brewer on Talk Radio, and she made a very good point. Before the referendum, we were told by the Remain side that I don't know why Brexiteers are so obsessed with leaving the EU. We're not really that tied to the EU in terms of the laws, the regulations and business links, and it's not really that bad. Everything's flexible here. We have our own powers and freedoms here. And now they're saying, oh no, this is too complicated. Everything's tied, everything's linked. So if we leave without a deal, we're all gonna die. I mean, you gotta pick one side. Are we tied or are we not tied? Is it simple or is it complicated?
The funny thing that we have is that the people who were pro staying in the EU, wanted to remain in the EU before 2016, their argument was, look, the EU doesn't really have any effect on our lives or our government. It doesn't affect us. Don't be so silly. It's just all about keeping peace in Europe. Nothing to worry about. Nice, easy, trading and that. And now they're saying we can't possibly leave the EU. It's far too complicated. It's got its tentacles into every single area of our lives. I mean, one of those statements only can be true.
But the reality is a no deal Brexit will hit the EU harder than the UK because it is a lot easier to manage one country and the budget and the economy than 27 countries with different requirements and different laws. And they're already having their own problems. For example, Germany is soon to be facing a recession. Overall, year on year, the German economy's growth rate is just 0.4% compared to the UK's 1.2%. The chief business editor of respected German broadcast Welt has said that Germany has become the sick man of Europe. GDP has now fallen in 2 of the last 4 quarters in both Germany and Italy. The same applies to the EU exports compared to the UK exports. Remainers pointing to soft economic numbers in the UK should note that trade between Eurozone member states fell by 6.6% in June compared to the same period last year. That was the fastest contraction since 2013. Exports from the Eurozone to the rest of the world also dropped by 4.7%, which is the fastest rate since 2016. This is massively underperforming compared to exports of goods and services from the UK, which grew by 4.5% in June, which is the most since October 2016. But at the end of the day, regardless of any potential impact in a situation if the government isn't fully prepared, this is what people wanted, and this is what people want even now. There's a survey that shows this. By 48% to 35%, Brits would rather have no deal than no Brexit under Jeremy Corbyn. But despite that, the Remainers say this isn't enough. They don't care that people want this. They say Parliament is sovereign and MPs don't want a no deal and didn't vote for a no deal. For example, Luciana Berger said that this is a national emergency. There is no mandate for an undemocratic no deal Brexit. Well, in reality, Luciana, what happened was that the majority of MPs did vote for a no deal Brexit. When they voted to trigger the Article 50, it was written in the document that one scenario would be if we don't get a deal by the end of the deadline, the UK will leave without a deal and you all voted for it. Also, if you're so concerned about a no deal or a pure Brexit, you could have just basically voted for Theresa May's deal and get it over with. But the biggest problem with Remainers, especially people like Adonis, is that they're complaining before Brexit has even happened. Wait for Brexit to happen, wait for it to be implemented, and after a few years, review and see if you're still not happy about it, then start campaigning about rejoining the European Union. But luckily, we also had a reaction from Brexiteers. We have a statement from Ian Duncan-Smith and Owen Paterson, which said that this Operation Yellowhammer leak is the version of what the contingency executive put together. They continued by saying that, for example, on the delays at the port, we asked the government if they had discussed their expectation with the port authorities of Calais, who had already said that there would be no extra delays at Calais, and they said, no, we didn't actually discuss this. The fact that this document was found in a Westminster pub tells you all you need to know. And they're right, the establishment plot to change people's mind is on the way. It's not going to stop anytime soon, and it is an abuse of proper use of the civil service. We even had the government of Gibraltar debunking this dossier, saying that this is an out-of-date and wrong report. The reports in today's Sunday Times about references to Gibraltar in the UK Yellowhammer briefings are out of date and were based on planning for the worst case scenario, which the government of Gibraltar has already dealt with. This out-of-date reporting by the Sunday Times sets out what we ourselves had identified as our main concerns and how we resolve the matters. So everybody calm down. Remainers keep saying that readjustment to change, especially when it comes to Brexit, is difficult and it's challenging. So, let's just not bother because democracy doesn't matter. But democracy comes here, always first. Look at Hong Kong. They are protesting every day and it's been weeks and weeks. And the protests are affecting their economy. But for them, freedom and democracy comes first. The Hong Kong government unveiled a $19.1 billion package on Thursday to support a slowing economy as escalating political protests and the prolonged US-China trade war weigh heavily on the Asian financial center. While people in Hong Kong continue to fight for their freedom and democracy. So before people stop believing this out-of-date and misleading dossier, make sure you share this video so that they know the truth. And if you want to support this channel, you could always become a member of the Cabinet Club. The link will be in the description. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle should be down here somewhere. And as usual, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell next to it. And I'll see you tomorrow with a new video.